Hello everyone, and here we are looking at the Ice Devil as you saw from the screenshot above, before this, whatever. Let's go ahead and look at this monster here. This was selected by the YouTube and Patreon members, so if you'd like to voice your opinion, go ahead and jump on over to Patreon or subscribe here on YouTube to become a member and voice your opinion. Now, let's see what this Ice Devil has to offer us. And get right into this. We have an 18 AC with 24 D10 hit dice here. Being a large fiend, we are moving up to the D10s. There we go, D10s. It's going to be 24 of them. We are looking for CR14, excuse me, I was thinking of another monster. Next up is the stats, 21 strength, 14 dexterity, 18 constitution, 18 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 18 charisma. And then from there, we will move into the features area. We have some skills, those don't matter. We have some immunities, cold, fire, poisoning, and the poisoned condition. So we will go ahead and trigger this. This unfortunately is going to bloat our hit points here, because if we don't have anyone attacking us with cold, fire, or poison, then the immunities are a moot point and we are actually killing this much easier. So we will take a look at this monster after the fact to see what it actually has for a CR value and hit points without the immunities triggering this extra 50% hit points and 144 effective hit points. The traits have Diabolical Restoration. If the devil dies outside the 9 hells, it revives all of its hit points in the 9 hells. Then we have Magic Resistance. This is going to be +2 effective AC bonus, which, if we're not being affected by saves, magical saves, this is also bloating our monster, unfortunately, and making them appear stronger than they actually are. We will now move into the action section. We have a multi-attack where the devil makes 3 spear attacks. It can replace one with a tail attack. Let's go ahead and start working out the ice wall and tail attacks here. Our ice spear is going to be melee or ranged attack for +10 to hit, which is coming from the melee, as we can see here in the 2-hit section of the strength. We'll go ahead and change that in the offensive section down here. 14 damage on average, or 2d8 +5. So we'll come up to the monster attack dice section, switch that to 2d8, and we'll get the +5 from the strength bonus, giving us an even 14. And then we are also getting 3d6 in cold damage as a rider. That's going to give us 10.5 damage. And until the end of its next turn, the target can't take a bonus action or reaction. Its speed is reduced by 10, and it can move or take one action on its turn, but not both. So this is basically an effective slow spell if they're hit. Damage here is going to be the 14 plus the 10.5, giving us a total of 24.5 for one attack, and we can do this 3 times. And then we can also do the tail attack, which we'll take a look at next, and then the ice wall afterwards. The tail attack is going to end up being 3d6 plus the strength modifier, giving us 15.5 plus an additional 18 from cold damage. So for whatever reason, we're definitely going to want to use the tail attack, especially if we're being attacked in melee here. 4d8 is going to net us 18 average damage, and that will be the tail attack. We'll go ahead and add those two in together down here, giving us 33.5 points of damage, which is definitely much stronger than the initial one here of just 3 ice spear attacks, unless we're fighting from ranged. Now, after that, we do have the ice wall here, which recharges on a 6, so in theory, we are only going to be able to use this ice wall once in combat. For the ice wall here, the devil just casts Wall of Ice, level 8 version, requiring no spell components and using intellect as its spellcasting ability. Let's go ahead to the damage, or the spell damage lookup. So we'll come here to level 6, look up Ice Wall. We'll update it to level 8, giving us 133 damage per round, and we'll take that 133 here and apply that to the second attack here. Now the issue is that in theory, the ice wall will be doing damage every round of combat. More than likely, it's not. But we're supposed to take the best case scenario, so we'll look at the best case and then we'll tone it down to what's more than likely going to happen, which is probably going to be actually 2 rounds of combat at best case. And that's everything. So let's go ahead and put this all together to see where we're at here. Now that we have our ice wall taken care of and figured out for the damage, let's go ahead and see what we have for every round of combat. This means that we're going to be using the ice wall in the first round of combat, and then we are skipping round 1 because we've cast the wall of ice, and then after that our wall of ice is dealing damage in theory. Rounds 2 and 3 we'll be doing the biggest multi-attack we can do there, and we end up with a CR 21 as we can see here. Much higher than the printed CR 14, which is obscene. Let's take a look at the most likely scenario here. So we'll just go ahead and erase all of this, and we'll say probably round 1 we'll get that 133 points of damage out. Likely our players have moved away from the ice wall, so we're not getting that damage anymore, and for good reason. With 133 points of damage from a CR 14, we'll move on to probably having to throw some ice spears. We'll say the ice spears for round 1, and then we finally have maybe a, maybe our Ice Devil here has been kiting the players, and the round 3 someone finally gets into place to melee the monster. So now we end up with a CR 18 rather than a CR 21, and that's rounded up because technically it would be 17.5. We have a real big issue here, and that issue is the ice wall. Let's go ahead and get rid of the ice wall and just say we do 3 rounds of combat of just throwing ice spears. Maybe our Ice Devil is playing coy and running away, which would be the smart thing. It does have an 18 intelligence and a 15 wisdom, so more than likely it would be doing its darndest to stay away from the players at all costs. So it would be throwing spears all the time. And even just throwing ice spears, we're seeing a CR 16 Ice Devil here, which is still bad. And the big problem here is that the Devil's not doing that much damage. As we can see here, with just 73.5 points of damage, not being hit, we're still doing really well here. What happens if, by just doing ice spears, kiting our players, we remove the immunities? What are we looking at now? Well, the immunities are gone, we've removed the magical resistance, and then suddenly our Ice Devil here drops to a CR 12. And I just want to confirm that everything seems to be right here. Well, after looking at all of this, this still seems right, although the ice spear slowing does seem to be something we should take into consideration, even by removing immunities and the magical resistance here. Let's go back to level 3 here, and since we knew that level 3 slow was going to be about 27 DPR, we're going to come down to level 2, and we're going to look for a spell that would be a single target effect. Similar to Blur. Blur is a single target, it gives an effective damage per round, and that gives us 16. So we'll go ahead back to the calculations and throw that into our effective hit points, giving us approximately 40 effective hit points. We'll go ahead and take that 40 and apply it to the extra hit points here. So every round of combat, technically we're getting effective hit points. Maybe our Ice Devil is throwing the spears at multiple targets and slowing them all down so we can continue to kite. Ironically enough, we're only hitting CR 13 now. Let's, just for the sake of things, go back to throwing on some immunities and the magical resistance here. And we are now at CR 16 again because of the ice spear features. If we get rid of the magical resistance, nothing happens there. Let's get rid of the immunities. Now we're technically hitting 14 with magical resistance. And besides, just remove the immunities, except for maybe one. This is an Ice Devil, so keep cold and poison. That way we don't have to worry about triggering immunities. Let's get rid of fire as one of the immunities, so now we don't trigger the immunities anymore as a feature. We can keep magical resistance on because it's a devil, that makes sense. And then from there, we just increase the hit points a little bit. Or we increase the damage. Personally, I would suggest increasing the damage. Since we are only looking at the spear at the moment, what we could do is instead take an average of the 2 attacks, because those are the ones we're swapping. So to get an average amount of damage for the spear and the tail that we can swap out one of, we're ending up with roughly 29 damage if we're bouncing back and forth between 3 spears or 2 spears and a tail. So that new damage gives us 2 spears for a multi-attack. So we'll do this times 2, plus the 29 points of damage. and we end up with 78 points of damage here. Let's go ahead and swap that out. Now we have a CR14 Ice Devil. All we have to do to fix this, which turns out to be a little easier than I thought, is get rid of the immunities. Technically, keep cold and keep poison, those are fine. Get rid of fire, and then on top of that, don't use Ice Wall. Unless you want to use Ice Wall to protect the Ice Devil. That's the only reason. If the Ice Devil and their crew need to escape, that's when you use Ice Wall. Beyond that, don't use it offensively, only use it defensively. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Love these monster breakdowns? Of course you do. Directly support the channel by becoming a YouTube member or Patreon subscriber today. Your support helps me create more content and get you some awesome perks in return, like early video access and exclusive custom monsters. Find all the details in the description below.